Bananas on the list. Man.
I'll start at dictation. My daughter, I just when they separated me. Come in and see.
Right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Greater Huntsville, the best Rotary Club in Alabama. There's other Rotarians in here, so I'm making a point of saying that. If you guys go ahead and stand up and we'll get the meeting started. Bill's got a great song for us today.
Thank you, Chris. Not a love song today, but a prison song. We're gonna dedicate this to all of our incarcerated relatives. I ain't seen sunshine. I'm stuck in Folsom Prison. But that rain keeps a rolling up that San Antonio. Now I'm just a baby. Mama told me son, always be a good boy, don't ever play with guns. But I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. When I hear that whistle, I hang my head and cry. But then there's rich folks eating and fancy dining cars, probably drinking coffee and smoking big cigars. My hand is coming, I know I can't be free. But those people keep moving, and that's what's going through me. Wait for it to run prison if the railroad train was fine. I know what I do, I move farther down the line, far from Folsom Prison. That's where I want to stay. But I let that Folsom Prison, oh, my blues away.
No, thank you, thank you. All right, leading us in the pledge, we'll get your own Reed Kloss. We'll get it up here on the screen for some folks here.
Raise the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You'll bow with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this day. We're thankful for each person that's here today and their families. We're thankful for our motto, Rotary, service above self. We pray for our men and women in uniform who guard our countries and our freedom that we take for granted often. We pray for the ones that are our world leaders, our city leaders, our USA leaders. Thank you for all that you provide for us. And always help us to say, be humble and kind, say a kind word. Forgive us where we failed thee, for asking in your name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, go ahead and get to your meeting. We're going to start here in just about 2 minutes, though. We've got a full schedule today.
Yeah. Have to get it cleaned up on the 17th. Then, borrow Carol's crutches because there's a shortage of crutches right now. Oh my gosh, there's a shortage of crutches. I said, don't worry about it. I think I'll have it in my basement.
Art, how are you?
Okay.
All right. Let me tell you, stay 7.
Yes.
But,
HUD has
I
said
didn't give her some.
all their money has to be spent by the end of this year.
Closet that we gave away.
That's the change of everything. So we're meeting back with Mike and Corey again, saying, okay, we're gonna have to.
Yeah, 5
I mean, not do something that can't do something further later. So we're going back.
Yeah.
Scott Irwin, okay, we spend as much as we can spend.
Yeah.
Don't take it all away from us. It's a lot. Spend as much.
Back up to go up. I guess.
School brother, that got.
I've never,
They invite us down, we decide, you know.
I don't exercise or anything I like to do. I don't know. Maybe down here. I have no idea. It's been going on since.
I'm still so weak. I live in Brookfield here.
Do anything good. All the rest of my ACLs.
She doesn't know what happened.
Really slow at first.
It's just real area. I thought it was circulation in the city.
The ramp.
So I asked their doctor.
As soon as I could, I started working on the same.
Geez, like, give me a prescription. I'll just have it.
Several times I had to say, Margie, would you come over here?
So by the time I finally asked the PT to do something about it,
Something else. We thought we didn't have enough people.
she said, no, PT's
You know.
So
Mike always, when it runs around the crowd,
they sent me
I
straight.
hear what we're saying and the way that saw needs, translate that. Still pretty good.
Time.
You're right in the middle.
So I did it in my 60s and 80s. Well, I've been this to my caretaker. When they've been going on since late October. You know, Bill going to the stadium. So it's been better.
Everything's around.
Yeah, I got straight off the floor.
That was the other
That was
thing.
70-something. Bed around the dog, or a chair, spin. Yeah.
Pre.
This is what she was.
After the rotary. Yeah, I appreciate that.
He's been overseas several times. They sent PJs with degree. When I was down.
You're meeting your what?
That was fun.
They have two kids for each year.
I guess they're that age, they
MCL and ACL, he said surprisingly, he could tell weakness in some of my muscles were okay for years. He said, I still don't know how.
Just.
He said, this particular one.
He goes, you never know.
Later on, this was.
I'll say it, say the clock. Long did it take it?
That's great. So he said, well, that's great. So he said, that makes sense. They're like now. I'm sure y'all are staying busy. You're staying very busy, yes.
Oh, how difficult it is to get it apart.
After Christmas comes down. Pretty rough. I have avoided it. And I avoided it. First was the spouse.
How do we handle this?
It's like this.
Yeah, she has been.
All right, gang, we're gonna get this meeting started. We're bypassing a little bit on the Two Truths and a Lie today because we've got a full schedule, but if you'd like to volunteer for next week, feel free to let me know. I know some of you have notes in your phones ready to go, so please feel free to let me know if next week could be your week. We'd like to announce our guests today. Got a lot of great guests. Our Steady Eddie, which is a member of our club, but technically he's at the Madison Club. Bob is here today. So Bob, he's here and everywhere. Everything we do, that Bob's there. And Bob, you've got a position with the district now, right? What's we're just talking about that a little bit. What's the new position?
Well, I don't know.
Not sure if it's
I
new.
was appointed to be the technical host for District 686.
Well, fantastic. Congratulations. You're the right guy for that.
I'll be contacting the club because I'm supposed to help with, since DAC DB was upgraded, is to try to get all your RLI records correct.
Okay,
So I can go in and fix them and add if something didn't get in.
perfect. Well, Bob was instrumental too in helping us get set up initially with Zoom, and luckily we had, Redstone here had all the capabilities, but helped us get going on that. So thanks, Bob. Always appreciate you. Pam Smith is not a guest. She's a new member. We found her badge today, but it's nice to see you. I know you've been out doing a lot and you're in the medical industry and you travel quite a bit. So it's nice to have you here today, Pam. And we're scheduling her red badge speech next time she comes, if that's okay with her. Just let us know when you'll be here. We've got another visiting Rotarian, but I'm going to let Reed Claus introduce his guest today.
Well, it's not my guest. I told him, I said, you can be a guest or a visiting Rotarian. Who's paying? Oh, I'll visit. It's the Honorable, our Southern District Congressman, Dr. Parker Griffin.
All right, we have our speaker, Wayman Burke, Dr. Wayman Burke here with us today. We're excited about him. Thanks for being here. And I've got a special guest today. My lovely wife, Stacy, is here with us. All right. All right, so our topic today, which we're really excited about, there's a lot going on right now, is Alabama politics, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's like you read. I know we overthink that, but no, come on. Upcoming presentation. So next week, we are doing some estate planning 101 with our own Joanne Perez. So Joanne, thank you for that. We've got some speakers lined up that we're working on for the 9th. On the 16th, Chad Emerson, president of Downtown Huntsville Inc., will tell us all the great things going on in downtown Huntsville and around the city. On February 24th, I'm excited about this one, the new Orion Amphitheater, which is almost complete. But Ryan Murphy is the president and general manager of Huntsville Venue Group, who's going to be running that venue. So I'm really excited about that. This should be a great topic to hear about. And we've got a lot of other speakers that we're getting lined up here pretty shortly as well. Is that banner in the way of the screen? You guys see okay? I can't tell from here. So we had another great ramp build this week. It was probably one of the most efficient ones that we've had. It went fabulous. It was a little chilly out there. Definitely wanted to put some pictures to give a shout out to the crew that we don't normally see. We usually see the Saturday crew, but the folks that get out there on Wednesdays and put together the frames and the pieces that we need for Saturdays are so integral into what we do. So I want to thank those folks that were there on Wednesday, putting together the frame and getting the pieces together for us. We really appreciate you. Some people can make it to the Wednesday and not the Saturday, so they're not getting all the good press of their hard work. Then we got out there and did the ramp build. I don't know who this guy is with his selfie right here. This is our saw man, who the saw man is usually the most integral part of the ramp build. He's got to be fast. He's got to get it right. Joe wasn't there this week. Ed's always taking care of us, and I think we're looking for a saw man for. Roger's gonna be there. Okay, awesome. Roger will be there the next time, because I think Ed and Marcia are heading out on a month-long journey to Florida. So that's the completed ramp there, and that's the house right when we started. And here's the great crew that finished it off. You can tell they're having a great time. Was a little chilly. Someone said it's probably the first time that we had frozen boards a couple of times with ice on them. But at least I'd rather have the cold than the rain, I'll tell you that much, sloshing through the mud. But it was quick, couple hours, done. Team worked great. So this is our number 6, I believe, for the year so far. Rams at 7, number 7 that we put together. And the next ramp build, Cliff, is February 12th. So that's going to come up pretty quick.
And it's going to be for Nicole's good friend from high school.
That's right. Nicole's got a good friend from high school. I believe that's ALS. We're going to go help her out. So
Really need it.
So February 12th, mark that on your calendars, please. But another great event, another life change, Mr. Phillips.
Not sure what the heck. What's Mike Rogers doing with that machine?
That was the air blower.
Yeah, what that is.
What's someone's ear?
Blowing away the hot air, maybe. I don't know. I didn't say that.
Technicians.
Hey, so our Rotary Clock, most of you probably know, but some of you may not, that this club is installed the Rotary Clock in that roundabout there by the library and MC Suites. It's something that we take care of and monitor. Art has been a huge integral part of keeping that clock running. And unfortunately, sometimes it wears out. And so the guys went out there to take care of ours and give us some insights on that.
Well, the clock's been running continuously since 2007 when we dedicated it, and the motor quit. And this is it. This little thing right here. The gears also kind of got stripped. And so this part had to be replaced, and it started having problems that we knew about right before Christmas, maybe the second week in December. But I couldn't get to it until after the holidays, and then it just turned out that it was time for the Bird-In clock technician to come and do his annual inspection. And so he did that, and we immediately, as fast as we could, approved the renovation to put in the new motor. all of the new stuff that we put in 2 years ago is still fine. And that was the expensive part. This is much less expensive than what we did 2 years ago. We don't have the final bill, but it's probably gonna be under $2,000. And the last time it was about $12,000. So feel better about it, but it should be good for the indefinite future. And it all happened pretty quickly. And thanks very much to the people that let me know that the clock was wrong. And thanks very much to Rudy and Larry for being out there the whole time that the tech was there. And Rudy for helping me go get the lift that we rented.
Also, talk about the maintenance in the future this spring.
Well, sometime this spring, we're gonna need to have a service day at the clock circle for landscaping work. We're gonna need to pull weeds and maybe replace some of the roses that are inside the circle of bushes and do a little trimming and sprucing up. And then the other thing with the clock that we got to worry about is that the corner that we rebuilt a few years ago, after there was a car wreck that tore it up, we have to protect that because that corner is now a construction site for another new hotel. It hasn't started yet, but it's coming, and we have to watch the design and make sure they don't impinge on part of the circle. And all of this is always a little bit delicate because technically we don't own the clock circle. We gave it to the city with the understanding that we would do the maintenance. The city pays for the electricity to run the clock. It comes off the same power as the streetlights. And they provide the water for the sprinkler system. But we do need to watch out for anything else that might happen and guard the circle so that the whole installation stays in good shape.
Thank you, Art. We definitely appreciate your leadership over the years in managing the clock. So on the service and projects, you mentioned a few of the items. We also need to be out there power washing the bricks that we laid down there and the sidewalks. And there's also been some ideas of, how can we maybe promote this club a little bit better? Could we put a couple signs out there that are very specific to Rotary Club of Greater Huntsville so people, number one, see Rotary, and then number two, might see more of our club. So those are some other things we're looking at with that. But thanks again, Art. Appreciate that.
Just put a sign out. Well, we have to be careful of that because when we did the project, we tried to partner with the downtown club to get them to do it together with us. So that's why the face says the Rotary Clubs plural
Okay.
of Huntsville.
So were they partners at the time?
They, not really.
No.
They provided.
Surprise.
The point is to, like we do when we do the ramp builds, change the sign to say maintained by the Rotary Club of Greater Huntsville.
Okay.
Because that would be true.
Yes, that's good. Thanks, Ed. We're always looking for ways to make Rotary shine, as our district governor would say, so look for an opportunity there. Reed, did you want to go talk about the Veterans Memorial cleanup? Real quick?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'll
Really
do
want
it
to,
right here.
okay.
It's gonna be a balmy 30-something degrees Saturday, 0900. But we sure could use some help. And so if you guys want to get back to the community, it's less than an hour long. Please come out, grab a rag. It doesn't take long. We got the Scout, our chartered organization there. And I will promise to try to bring warm water in the buckets this time instead of 20-degree water. Whatever. We'd love to have everybody there. 9 o'clock. Thank you.
Well, I would encourage, if you've been there before, please come back this weekend, or if you haven't tried before, please come out. The new executive director for the Scouts, Alex, is going to be joining us. I really want to have a good showing here for the Rotarians. So there's times we've had, as Reed said, we've had 20 people, and sometimes we've had 1 or none. So if you could make it this weekend, this would be a great one to come to. So thank you. All right, January is still National Blood Donation Month. Mary Edgecombe, I don't know if you have any announcements on this, but I know we already have a few people that donated blood. And each person that does, there'll be a donation to our foundation through that process. And then also, as we learned last week, I don't know if it's the American Heart Association or what the organization is.
It's the American Red Cross, Chris, with the NFL.
Thank you, with the NFL. Do you want to talk about that real quick, Mary?
Sure. The shortage in this country is really bad right now. In fact, it's the worst we've had in a couple of decades. And it's for a number of reasons. And every unit that is given can save at least 3 lives. So that's a really big deal. Your one little unit of blood that you give helps a lot of people. We have already had 2 confirmed donations. So we already have $10 going to the Rotary Foundation, in addition to the lives that we're saving. And the more we get, the more that gets given. So roll up your sleeve and give some blood.
Awesome, Mary. Thanks for leading that charge for us. All right. And as long as we don't have enough going on, but everything we do is extremely important. And First Stop is a great partner of ours that does amazing work in this community, especially for the homeless community. And we are partnering with First Stop in February. It's going to be First Stop February. And like we've done for many years in the past, definitely around the jackets and things like that, but we're looking at trying to provide specific items that First Stop and their clients need. And so each week, we're going to have specific items that we're asking that you bring to the meeting. We will collect those items and get them delivered immediately to First Stop. So really excited about this partnership. Go look through your closets, go look through your garages, go to the store, whatever you think you can do. Please bring these items to the meetings. Paul, do you want to say a couple words on this?
Just one thing, for those of you online, if you will let me know if you've got something, I'll be glad to come by and pick them up for you. Or the same here. If you can't bring them here, let me know. We'll get them. So thank you. And next week, we'll put out something special just to remind you, blankets and sleeping bags. We're going to do something different every week so that if you want to do something special, you can, but you can always continue to bring these things or do it anytime you want to. I appreciate it very much.
Paul, thanks for your sponsorship for that. Really appreciate you. All right, yeah, so next week, and we'll send out some reminder emails too. I know it's hard to remember this from week to week, but probably Monday when we're sending out the reminder of the meeting, we'll send this out again. All right, membership update. So the Flex membership, the new Flex membership, there are the details of the new Flex membership, and it has been fully approved by the board. What we had to do next is make sure that we approved it as a change to our bylaws, and the board has completed that approval as well. So in this meeting today, what we're looking for is a motion, a second, and then to take a vote from the membership of approving the Flex membership change to our bylaws.
So moved.
Thank you, Art. Second, any discussion or questions? All in favor? Opposed? All right, unanimous. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. I went a little too far. New member updates. We're really getting some great interest in the club and some awesome people joining our club. Tammy Robertson's application has been fully approved. She'll be inducted and do orientation, be inducted as a new member shortly. Tim Green's application is in the approval process. Excited to have him join our club. He's sponsored by Jay. Alex McDowell, his application is out for him to complete. He is the new executive director for the Scouts. And then Roy Long has been reinstated to the club. He resigned because he was fake meetings. And so with this new Flex membership, this just gave him an opportunity to come back and be a full member and just participate via Zoom, and then keep it economical for him. So really excited to have Roy back in the fold. So, all right, a couple announcements. Heels, if anybody is interested in helping us with a facility rehab, I know Roger's leading that effort. Thornton Stanley and a group went out there and tore up the floors for us. We're looking at putting new floors down. I know Cliff and Pete are assisting with that as well. So if you're interested in helping us with that, please see Roger. Is that right, Roger? Or am I putting too much on you?
Pete's gonna be on vacation for a
There
long
you go.
time.
There you go. Yeah, Pete, Mr. Blowout, I said was going skiing already, so stronger man than I am. Uganda scholarships, we still have some Uganda scholarships open, so please see Roger or Todd on that if you're interested. And board positions, please be considering board positions. Jim is here today. I'm sure he'd be excited to hear from anybody that would like to participate on the board next year and add to all the great work that we're doing. With that, did I miss anything? Okay, with that, Cliff, would you like to come up and introduce our speaker then? Thank you.
Thank you very much. For Rotarians, it gives me a great pleasure today to introduce my friend and and helped me through a lot of consternation that went on for about 15 years. And I'll just leave the location, out. But Wayman is a native, Huntsvillian. And I know that everyone has seen his bio that we set out today, but I just want to make sure that I like to highlight some of the several things that he has done. He's taught history and political science at Calhoun Community College since 1990. He's an adjunct, a professor at the University of Alabama, Huntsville, and A&M University, and also Athens State University. And he currently serves as an adjunct faculty dissertation advisor for doctoral students at Middle Tennessee State University. So he's well recognized in this group and field for this. He also served, and we heard several of this over the years, but he was the co-host of Guerrilla Politics, a weekly television show that was on Way TV, and he received an Abby Award for the best local programming while he was doing that. Wayman was a board member and chair, is still a board member, I should say, and the chair of the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. And now I showed my hand because that's where I've worked with him for about the last 15 years, or for 15 years. I'm retired at 6. So now, ladies and gentlemen, Rotarians and guests here, it gives me great pleasure we're going to hear the good, the bad, the ugly of Alabama politics. Wayman Burke.
Thank you, Cliff. You're a lot taller than I am. Can y'all hear me like this?
They can't on Zoom.
Okay. They can hear me. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I've got a lot of energy. I move about a lot. I understand. I'm Wayman Burke. I'm just a poor, simple, malmannered country school teacher. And I am a member of the Downtown Rotary Club, as a matter of fact. And Parker and I will go back and yell at them for you. I love Rotary. I love coming and visiting, talking with people. I appreciate you having me back here again today. Well, I know that Cliff told me that I should talk about, some things going on in the country and the state and so forth today. And there are a couple more slides. I had to get my program, not pre-approved, but I guess to be bug-free. That's what it was. So some significant things happened in the past 24 hours, as you probably know. But I'll just deal with those off the top of my head. This is my favorite quote on history. I use it everywhere. And I know that you know who Ian Fleming was. I will tell you that 20-year-olds do not. And that disturbs me. But that quote jumped off the page at me when I was about 14 because I'd read all of them by the time I was about 15. But history is moving pretty quickly these days, and the heroes and villains do keep on changing parts. I was going to start out and talk about the governor's race. This is just a little perfunctory overview of what is happening with some of the major candidates and perhaps some of the least major candidates. Of course, I'm not sure. I've heard this guy, Christopher Countryman, is running as a Democrat, but that would not be a power hitter entry into the race, I don't think. You have Governor Ivey, the incumbent. Lindy Blanchard has switched races. I've heard rumored that former President Trump said he would endorse her if she would. Tim James, who was run before, he was almost in this thing back in 2010, barely missed the runoff by just a handful of votes. And that's when Governor Bentley won. And of course, Stacey George, perennial candidate, and I will admit he was one of my students at Calhoun many years ago. Jim Ziegler, who is the state auditor, and there may be others getting in because I believe, Parker, you may know this more than I. Is this the final week for qualifying?
Right.
For Democrats and Republicans?
Yeah.
Okay. And so that will be the field, and probably Governor Ivey is probably hers to lose, many people feel. On the U.S. Senate race, that's in some ways maybe the more interesting race, was Senator Shelby leaving, and I know we're really going to miss Senator Shelby, I'll tell you. He knew how to bring the bacon home, and we love the bacon, even if we claim we don't like government, right? The
Katie Britt reportedly is his favorite candidate. And our Congressman, Mo Brooks, is a candidate for that, and so is Mike Durant. And the Democrats thus far, Brandon Dean, who was the mayor of Brighton, Alabama, I believe it was. I don't know much about him, but there may be others getting in. We'll see, I guess. I do want to, I think I put that on the wrong slide. I know I did about the congressman. But the 5th Congressional District is another, something happened yesterday that really complicates this entire race, I think. And currently the candidates, John Roberts, very nice young man. I met and talked with him. Paul Sanford, former state senator. Dale Strong, of course, well-known county commission chair. Casey Wardinski, the former school board superintendent. And I don't know who Charlie Thompson is. Do you know who they are, Parker? I have no idea who he is. But it doesn't appear the Democrats are putting up any heavy votes, at least for the statewide races or the congressional races, at least in our area. But of course, what happened was a 3-judge panel, which I was told this morning by my good buddy Jess Brown, when I want to know something, I call Jess, so I don't have to read the 300-page ruling. That 2 Reagan appointee judges and 1 Trump appointee made this decision, and they struck down unanimously the the congressional district map that was adopted by the legislature recently. Now, you probably know Alabama has a long, ugly, and sordid history about gerrymandering, and in particularly gerrymandering African Americans out of political office. Let me start with it. There was a famous Supreme Court decision in the 60s called Reynolds versus Sims. And it was an Alabama case, and it was about the state legislature, because when the Constitution of 1901 was written, roughly 2/3 of the people lived in South Alabama and 1/3 lived in North Alabama. Do I need to do anything? Oh, okay. And of course, as things changed by the 1960s, 2/3 of the people lived in North Alabama and 1/3 in South Alabama. But South Alabama still had 2/3 of the seats in the state legislature. And we only had 1/3, and that's malapportionment. And that's where the 1 man, 1 vote, or I guess more politically, 1 person, 1 vote ratio came into being, that each of these legislative districts had to be about the same. And today in the United States, an elected office, for the U.S. Congress, to state legislatures, county commissions, school board districts, municipality, council members, city boards of education, every district must be about the same size in population to meet that standard. The only exception is the U.S. Senate, where everybody has 2 senators regardless of their size. So North Dakota, with less than 500,000 people, have 2 U.S. senators, and California, with 40 or 50 million, have 2 U.S. senators. But regardless, getting on to let me say this. What we used to do, up until 1970, there were no African Americans in the state legislature since the late 19th century of Reconstruction. And because they were gerrymandered out, you would just create these majority white districts and then run these fingers, so to speak, into African American areas to always make them a minority in the districts. So African Americans by the 70s made up about 1/4 of the state's population. And after the courts struck all that down, African Americans had about 25% of the seats in the state legislature. But what happens here is that today we're told about 27% of the state's population is African American. Each congressional district has about 14% of the vote. And what African Americans were asking for were 2 seats to be carved from Alabama's 7 congressional seats. Rather than 1, because they're arguing malapportionment in that area. So basically what the 3-judge panel has said is that we are not compliant with the 1965 Voting Rights Act under Section 2, I'm told, that require that race is a factor in drawing congressional districts. So either the legislature is going to have to go back and draw these districts to create 2 majority African-American districts, or the courts will do it. Now, the courts have had a history of drawing districts in Alabama. You know, in 1970, they drew the districts. They did them again in 1980 and 1990. The legislature got itself together in 2010, as I recall, and drew the districts themselves. My memory might be a little fuzzy on some of these things they run together. But what it does, it creates this interesting situation if you've got all these candidates who file to run for Congress, and they're not even sure they'll be in the district, because we don't know how the legislature or the courts may draw these things. We're used to the 5th Congressional District, or at one time it was called the 8th Congressional District, just stretching across North Alabama. And so we don't know, will we be split up? Could we be pulled into Adderholt's district? Because the only district without an incumbent is the 5th District. I think I'm right on that part. And because Brooks is running for the U.S. Senate, of course. So I don't know how that's going to affect things, but it certainly affects these guys. And it could, in some cases, it has in the past, force 2 congresspersons into the same district. They have to run against one another. So there's some chaos here. And so I don't know what, I'll assume they will appeal. I don't know how successful that may be. But it's, like I said, we'll be past qualifying time on Friday. So I assume that there will be new qualifying times. I'm just guessing. Yeah, they'll have to move that at some point, should they do it. So that's the situation we're in right now. We also have these Alabama constitutional offices. All of those are up. All members of the, and I'll get to that in a moment about the legislature, but all these folks are. Alabama does not have a unified executive. Some states do have unified executives where the governor and the lieutenant governor, in some cases, attorney generals and so forth, all run as a team. So the governor is separate from the lieutenant governor, this type of thing. So often you have people at odds on that non-unified executive thing. This is because of the F word, and I call that in class federalism. Every state is set up a little bit different. All 105 members of the legislature are up, and all 35 senators are up. And of course, they will be in these districts that we talked about. And then the second part of this, I was gonna talk to you about, politics, the art of the possible. Some things that really concerns me is, because I think as a teacher, and I may not always agree with government policy, but you don't have to agree with government policy to be a patriot, so to speak. Country first, that type of thing. But we have some great divisions in our country. And I always see politics as the art of the possible. And says politics is about gaining power. It's a two-edged sword. Politics is a majority, but it can be a good thing, using power for good. A friend of mine tells me, who is a political operative, says that it's really not political science. It's more of a political art. And it's not, as Einstein said, the purest of science is mathematics, because you don't always have the absolute answers in politics. Professional contrarians, I love this sign here. We run into people all the time who will argue with anyone about anything, and this guy apparently is not even charging. And politics is everywhere. I tell my students, I said, even in the office, one of the things you've got to do is to work with people you disagree with, to deal with, how do you navigate all this? I love this cartoon on the right where he says, man, I hate office politics. And I think that's a part of, becoming a good citizen, is being able to work with people you disagree with. But this division and conflict is very troubling. We've had riots in the streets in 2020 in the wake of the George Floyd murder, and the attempted coup at the Capitol back on January 6th of 2021. And it's left our nation very divided. People are talking, some people are talking in dystopian terms of a civil war, these types of things. I was going to throw this in. The way we often view people who disagree with us, they've got their head in a hole. But it's a myth that we've always gotten along. I think that's important to point out. And I'll go back to the first Congress of the United States. We put George Washington on this pedestal. but only 57% of the people in Congress were supported Washington's policies and 43% did not. So it's always been a fight. I think that, and I'll show you this slide in a moment where John Meacham, the historian, says that we fall prey to the narcissism of the moment sometime. That the only important things, how we used to always come by y'all, we all got along. Jefferson and Hamilton both served in Washington's administration, and they literally hated each other's guts personally and policy-wise. They just did not get along. I like this Mark Twain quote, "Patriotism is supporting your country all the time and your government when it deserves it." That is, you can be a patriot and still disagree over policy. This is some of the things that I think are important to reinforce. But one of the things that bothers me in the confidence in government is concerning. The underlying factors, and you may have more, and you may even disagree with me on that, and that is fine. I mean, I encourage my students to disagree with me and talk it out. We see on this slide over here that trust in government in 1965 was 77%. Today it's 17%. I think that creates apathy and which is not a good thing. And are you proud to be an American? The slide down here, 42% yes, very extremely proud, 21% no, still at 63%. That seems mighty low to me. Moderately proud, only a little proud, not at all proud. Numbers like that are scary, I will tell you. But there are various things that may be contributing to this. I'll go over a couple of slides, but just the general outline: increased economic disparity between the house and housing nots, disaffected, marginalized, low efficacy folks, changing demographics and culture, trust in institutions, media and misinformation, confidence in elections, extremism. Those types of toxic things divide people. For example, economic anxieties. That one of the things that, according to this statistic, and I don't have the credit down there, I always try to put the credit, and I must have left that off. It costs $130,000 for a middle-class family to live comfortably, and the average family income is $56,000. Now, probably everybody in this room is doing pretty good, but there are a lot of people out there who aren't doing very good at all, and it may shake their confidence in the system. Distrust in the sense, it creates strange bedfellows. For example, it's very interesting that I think sometimes we may want to say, it's on the right or on the left or whatever, but one of the most interesting stats are just in these selected states here of people who had voted for Bernie Sanders, who you would think wouldn't have anything in common with Donald Trump, voted for Donald Trump and the runoff and actually swung those states. Because the way many people say this, they're disaffected people. They just feel that something's got to change and they're willing to vote for any change agent, some would think. I could sing and dance a little. By the way, I want to tell you, you've got better music than we do over there. I'm tired of singing Buffalo Gal or whatever it is that we sing. I like the Johnny Cash stuff. And also coming over here today, I'm a member of the Teachers Credit Union, so I don't walk over here in the enemy camp. Where's my friend Joe Newberry? Do you remember this club?
Yes, he is.
Where are you at, Joe? I feel offended you didn't come here and join me. Okay, we ready? Okay, very good. Another thing that we're hearing more and more about, and studies are showing that this is truism, is that the changing American demographics scare a lot of people, or at least some people. And that is, the country is no longer, or will no longer be a majority white country, or at least how people identify as white. We will probably, hopefully, live to long enough to probably see this. And that is, we're told by maybe the late 2030s, early 2040s, that whites will no longer be a majority, they will be a plurality. Now, part of this goes back, I always tell my students, it goes back to the advent of the birth control pill. It's because people are having babies, and or at least as they once did. But the increase in the population is not among African-American citizens, largely among Hispanic citizens and Asian citizens. Now, you know, we're not spread out all over the country evenly. In Alabama, often our politics is black and white. In Texas, it's black, white, and brown. In California, my son lives on the West Coast. You know, every other face you see walking down the face of Sunnyvale, the streets of Sunnyvale or San Francisco is Asian. So the country is, and there's going to be a large Asian increase as well. But this does scare some people that, you know, how does this affect the culture? Things that we generally say that we hold in common. But those are realities. Fact versus fiction, misinformation, rumors, fake news, that's always been a problem. It's just, I guess, the internet has made it even more of a problem, if you will. Of all the, FDR attacked rumors as a national security issue that undermined the national unity during World War II. But so the issue has been with us, but with the internet, it's made it hyperbolic. Confidence in elections. You know, we've had 5 elections in American history where the person who actually got the most votes did not become president. And the first one in 1824 with Andy Jackson, the second one in 1876, third one in 1888, the fourth one in 2000, and the fifth one in 2016. And this is also a factor. There are extremists. We talk a lot about, can you be liberal to the point that you're not in that job and conservative to the point that you're not in that job? Are these accurate representations of the left and right in America? I would say not, but they do get a lot of attention, don't they? And on the left, this woman is holding a sign that says patriotism is racism, or your vote was a hate crime, or over here you have QAnon or the neo-Nazis, these types. They may get more attention than their actual clout. But I think these things do divide us, even if we're not in sympathy with either one of them. Now, I often tell folks, I say, I don't trust extremists on the left or the right. One will shoot you, the other will burn you with a stake. But the dystopian America is all hope lost. And headlines like this, you know, disturb me. This is this week, as a matter of fact. Are we really headed for a second civil war? Or is the media being hyper? As a matter of fact, there's a prominent book out there by UCLA scholar Barbara Walter, not related to the late news reporter, about the coming civil war that's getting a lot of attention in the media. Conflict and civility and conflict resolution, dealing with adversaries, dealing with people that we disagree with. I encourage people to try to find common ground, listen, reason, read, look, talk, debate, ponder, think, vote. I used to have to tell my former co-host Dale Jackson that every time you call somebody stupid, the conversation is over. And that's the same way with personal relationships, because it is dividing. It's the divisions in my family, I will tell you, of folks that won't eat Thanksgiving dinner together. Avoid the echo chambers. I often tell my students it may be more important to listen to people with whom you disagree than people you agree. Not to change your mind, but to know your adversary's strong points and their weak points. And again, to try to find some common ground. I think people still have more in common than they do in differences. Or as Abraham Lincoln said, the better angels of our nature. Even Bill Maher, whether you love him or hate him, his message to liberals and conservatives, if we're ever going to get anything done in this country, we have to not hate everybody who doesn't agree with us all the time. And I think that's good advice. And of course, John Meacham previously quoted, don't fall prey to the narcissism of the moment. And what I told you earlier, the idea that the past was easier is wrong, because it was tough then as well. I like this photograph right here, to the folks on the opposite side of the fence, shaking hands, respecting those who disagree with us. May not always be easy, but civility and unity and patriotism are important. So discussion is good, and that is it. If you want to take some shots at me, I have no problem.
With question about the demographics projections.
About population.
And so is in the proportions of who. Are the growth in Hispanic and Asian a function of birth or immigration?
Probably both. You know, to go back and dig into history a little bit, when the 14th Amendment was passed after the Civil War, state of California did not want it to apply to people of Asian descent. As a matter of fact, Congress passed the Chinese, I forgot the exact name of the bill, the Exclusion Act. And that wasn't lifted really until the 1940s because they were so afraid of people of Asian descent coming and changing the culture and the politics and everything else. Sir.
Yes, have you read The State of Denial by Kyle Whitmire?
You know, I have read some of his work, but I don't know if I've read that, but I'd like to read
It
it.
came out on Sunday, and it deals with a lot of race issues in Alabama. It goes back to the 1901 Constitution. And I was wondering if something like that, I know you haven't read it, could be taught in your class at the university or in a high school government class.
And I haven't read it, but
Under the current legislation that's going on in Alabama about banning anything to do with race in the classroom.
well, critical race theory is just another bogus thing that's not a real thing. I mean, it's like war on Christmas. It's these what we call wedge issues to get people upset. I know I was at my dentist some time ago, and this very nice lady who was taking care of me, and she knew I was a teacher, and she said, "We've been talking at church about this critical race theory, and I'm just real concerned," and so forth. What some people would consider critical race theory is actually telling the truth of what did happen in the past, of things that, you know, we were talking about that today in class, who controls the narrative of history of what children are taught. We basically ignored, or at least in my lifetime, I had history books when I was in elementary school. It was called No Alabama. Did anybody else have that book? I encourage you to go back and read it because it glorifies the Ku Klux Klan. It's really little more than a racist training manual. And, I'm not afraid to talk about controversial topics. I taught high school for 17 years as well, and I taught AP. But I do believe in teaching kids the truth, but I do think things are age appropriate as well. Sir.
Are you about to tell us the good?
Well, I understand that teachers are about to get a raise, so that's good. I may not benefit because I'm probably retiring this year. I've taught school for 49 years, and for a decade, my retirement check's been bigger than my paycheck, but I've always loved what I do, so it's sort of tough to walk away from it. Sir.
I've been hearing and reading reports on Country First that Adam Kissinger started. Are those groups who are kind of more centrist? Are they actually getting traction?
Well, I guess with some people, with people like us who would read them, you know, people, moderate, good folks on both sides of the political spectrum. And of course, he's presenting himself as a centrist. But I think we go back to, you know, some people, whether on the left or the right, who become so disenchanted. How do we bring them back in to think rationally? I think that's, you know, that may not be an easy thing. None of us like to admit we were wrong, right? And that's really what I'm talking about dealing with people who may not, you know, people, I know there's people I love and care for, and I'll say, how the heck could you believe that, you know? But I don't want to be enemies with them. Our people are just my friends. I've known, you know, on both sides of the fence, if you will. Ma'am.
Could you share more? Every now and then you'll hear different factions of either the legislature or the relationships between the executive and the legislative branches, you know, might not have as good of a working relationship as other times. Can you share a little bit about the legislature and how the governor's office, when you read that the legislature is wanting more control over how the ARPA funds, for example, how is that going as far as the dynamics internally within the Senate and the legislature? They're bickering, and then also with the executive.
I will admit, I do not, I'm not there every day, so I'm not sure, but when you're talking about money, everybody wants to control it, don't they? I mean, that's the nature of it. So I honestly don't know, a friend of mine who is a political operative there, for the, Republican majority in the House was telling me that there are fractures within the Republican Party, very similar back when the Democrats were the only game in town, which wasn't that long ago. We all remember it. They had the same factions within them, and my friend was complaining about Democrats voting in the Republican primary, and I said, that's what happens when you destroy a political party. You know, folks are gonna go out and find some place to vote. But that's another issue, but I think it's just human to have factions within it, and everybody, I'm sure the governor wants to control the money. I'm sure that the legislature does as well, and of course, I am very pleased that, you know, we have the speaker from North Alabama, at least now. We got a lieutenant governor from North Alabama, because it's rare that we have those positions in our corner. And so that becomes very important. I left an article for you that I wrote many years ago, but I still think it's timely. I hope you'll read it, because I like for people to ponder things. And if you disagree with me, that is no problem. I should have put my email on there, so I'll just tell you what it is. It's so simple. Wayman.burke@calhoun.edu. So please feel free to disagree with me. I sometimes, and I have a whole presentation I give on this if you'd like to hear it sometime. It's about what is liberal and conservative? What does it actually mean? Because we always hear Alabama is so conservative. But are we really? I'm not saying we're a bunch of left-wing pinkos, but are we more diverse than we're actually given credit for? I was at the American Political Science Convention last fall in Seattle, and there's a book that I picked up there that Parker's supposed to be reading. It's called Red State Blues. And it's talking about some of the ideological groups like, you know, Koch and some others whose their definition of conservative may not be the way that we define conservative in our culture in the South, that they're disappointed. Many of these more ideological conservatives are disappointed that the South is, one of them commented, spending money like drunken socialists. But in other words, let me just put it this way. My dad, who was a very religious man, very, very religious man, and he always said we were conservative. So, you know, Dad said it, I guess we were conservatives. But as I got older, I realized he's really conservative on his religious views, but he's really a New Deal liberal on his economic views. And I think that's what a lot of Alabamians are, and that I also point out in this article that Alabama is one of, I believe, 9 or 10 states that would receive more money back from the federal government than we collectively pay in as citizens. In some years, it's over $3 for every $1 that we put in. I'm not sure that's conservative. Someone was talking about, with all this extra money, we ought to be giving taxpayers a tax cut, but should we not be giving it to people in New York and New Jersey? New Jersey gets 75 cents back for every dollar they take in, for example. Senator Monahan of New York used to complain that New Yorkers paid for the TVA. So just some things to ponder. There are uncomfortable truths out there, if that makes sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you again. That was fantastic. I think we should take him up on that. Send him some emails. I think he likes that. So definitely. And Parker, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. With that, we'll close the meeting. If you'll all stand, four-way test. Right, of all the things that we think, say, or do, first,
Is it true?
second,
Is it fair to all concerned?
third,
Will build goodwill as friendships.
and fourth.
Will be beneficial to all concerned.
Awesome. You guys have a great day. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being Rotarians.
How you doing, man? Good to see you. I'll tell you what the good news is. Good news.
Bye then.
About Alabama.